Good morning on this 26th of March. Well, another day in the Canadian election and on the Canadian political hinterland. You got to admit, there's never a dull moment in Canadian politics. The federal election is chiming along with both the Conservatives and Liberals promising tax cuts, tax cuts. They're going to cut everybody's taxes. The problem is that when you start screaming like that, well, what are you going to get rid of to pay for those tax cuts? Haven't heard that one yet either, hey? Well, here's the problem. And the problem is we're back to the days of Mouseland, the black cats and the white cats. Now, for those of you who don't know what Mouseland is, it's a shame because it was one of Tommy Douglas's most famous speeches about there's really no difference between the Conservative and Liberal parties of Canada. And to make my point even more clear, for those of you who think that Mark Carney is a Liberal, you should think again. Mark Carney is a small C Conservative. He comes from the banking industry. Every last one of it. He has been working for companies that shelter tax money in offshore investments. You know, there used to be a reason why Swiss bank accounts and these offshore accounts were illegal. They're designed for people who have wealth and security not to pay taxes. And Trudeau got caught with his fingers in the cookie jar in the offshore tax havens of the Caribbean. So let me tell you, if you think Mark Carney is a Liberal, no, he's not. He may be running for the Liberal Party. But like I say, it's a question, black cats, white cats. Doesn't matter. They're all the same. And I hope that you would go to YouTube and listen to Mouseland. It is a great piece. It's introduced by Kiefer Sutherland, who is the Canadian actor, who's also the grandson of Tommy Douglas. And I had the opportunity to get to know Mr. Douglas reasonably well. And to me, it was an honor. I mean, he's the founder of Medicare across this country, and he was a continual fighter for the rights of Canadians throughout his political career and his ministerial career as an evangelical minister as well, Baptist minister. So you really have to ask, why am I voting this way? Does it matter which way I vote? I will say this. Pierre Poilievre sits to the far right of the Conservative movement. Carney is dragging the Liberals more to the center right, and I'm not really big on Carney. But you have Singh on the left. Now, the problem with the NDP is, and I myself, under normal circumstances, am a New Democrat, have been for years, since the days I worked with Alan Blakeney. And this I will tell you. Politics of extremes do not work no matter what. But the solutions that are required do have some measure of the need for a more focused approach. However, this idea that has brought out, because on either end of the extreme movement, whether it's extreme right or the extreme left, you now have this cancel culture. Oh, we have to get rid of that book because it uses this word, or we have to get rid of this, or we have to get rid of everything. Donald Trump is doing it in the States. So you can see where you've got this problem. And so as the election goes, I'm not surprised by what I'm hearing from our leaders. I'm not surprised at all. And I'm just asking the Canadians to think and saying, if you're voting for Carney because you think he's progressive, guess again. All right. If you're voting for Carney because you feel that he's probably the best person to deal with the U.S. at this time, I think you may be possibly right, but I'm not sure even then. I know my nephew is asking me what was my hope, and this is my hope is that this is a hung parliament where none of them have the absolute power to do whatever they want, because frankly, as a Canadian, all three of them kind of scare me. And it's time. it's time that people started to think and get to the point in this process where we have to go to these functions and town halls and stuff like that and start asking these people these real fundamental questions that we have as Canadians. Moving on to provincial matters, our Premier, Danielle Smith, is in Florida at a conservative fundraiser. Why? I don't know. Why she is down there is ridiculous. We're right now in the middle of a battle with these people. These people do not even feel that our country has the right to exist, and yet she is down there. Which brings me to Scott Moe, who was just going, why did Carney take the opportunity to go to Europe first? I'll tell you why he went to Europe first. You don't want to negotiate with a bloody country that their first order of business is the annexation of your own. And in case you haven't noticed, and I said, and now you're upset because, well, Trump's going to buy his potash, and yes, potash is a major export to the United States for fertilizer for farm fields, but Trump is going to lift his trade barriers to import Russian potash. Well, guess what, Scott? Trump is first and foremost Vladimir Putin's bitch, and there's no other way to say it. It is the absolute truth. Matter of fact, I like the sound of it. From now on, Mr. Trump, I'm not going to call you President Trump. I'm going to call you Vladimir Putin's bitch. Because you love dictators, and you are aspiring to become one, and your complete lack of respect for the rule of law just makes me sick. But I will tell you this, the Canadian Premier's Coalition is falling apart simply by the actions of people like Scott Moe and Danielle Smith. And if we want to go anywhere in this country, Canadians have to stand up, and especially Albertans, and especially the people of Saskatchewan, and saying, you get your shit together and start defending this country. And the first thing you do by starting to defend this country is do not go down to kiss the ass of the person who's causing our difficulties in the first place. Anyway, that's it from Castor, Alberta. I'm the Outlaw, Bruce, by any other name. You have a great day, a good evening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye for now.